Hey, it's Jensen, and this is my little mini review of Up and Vanished Season 1, Episodes 1 through 3. This whole season, to my knowledge, hopefully, is all about this one person. The cold case of Tara Grintz. I had to write the name down because I was going to forget it. So, Tara Grintz was a school teacher who disappeared in 2006. She was at a beauty pageant and then at a barbecue. She gets home at about 10:30, 11 p.m. and then she doesn't show up to work the next morning, which is cause for concern, and the school faculty calls the police, and they go do an investigation of the house, only to find Tara's car unlocked and her house closed, or locked, not closed, locked. Which is a first starting cause for concern. Normally she's a very punctual lady, she's always at work, and now people are starting to freak out. It's not even 24 hours, and there's already police investigating this. The guy who's hosting the podcast tries to get a hold of a bunch of people from this case, like Tara's friend that she knew, and somebody answered, and then the lady immediately hung up as soon as Tara's name was said, and then the guy gets a call from a blocked number, and it's some guy who he says sounds like a police officer, saying, "Never call this number again." Alright, well that's interesting. Then he gets a hold of his grandma. The main podcast guy gets a hold of his grandma, who lived about, I think it was like 30 minutes from the city this happened in, which the name is escaping my mind. But she lived about 30 minutes from there, and his grandma actually knew a lady who knew of the Tara case, or knew Tara. And that leads down a whole different rabbit trail, or a white rabbit, as the podcast would say. Let's see, what else? Oh, it's blanking. Oh yeah. More stuff pops up. So Tara basically had this little safety pact with an elderly couple that lived right next door, which actually gave more evidence into something possibly happening to her that was foul play, and not just her, up and vanishing. Yes, I used the title. I don't know, that's punchline. I don't freaking know. Let's see. And their little thing was Tara would turn on this one little lamp by her window every night to signal, all's well, I'm good, don't worry. And that night, Tara's lamp was never turned on, which indicates further odds of foul play occurring. The lampshade was also crooked, which is weird. Tara's phone was also, and I think it was her purse. Her phone and her purse. Her phone was on the charger, and her purse was in the house. So, this doesn't seem like a robbery gone wrong. Or it could have been a robbery gone wrong, but her purse is right there. Her phone is on a charger right there. This valuable stuff. Like, there's probably money in her purse. And her phone is probably worth money too, right? So this really couldn't have been a robbery gone wrong or a burglary or anything. So, but this lamp's messed up. It's not turned on as part of the little safety pack between the elderly couple and Tara. Yeah, those were a lot of the main clues that actually stuck out to me. What else was there? Oh yeah, the main podcast guy meets one of the detectives who originally worked the case on a website called... It had something to do with the word sleuth. I can't remember the exact website name, but the podcast guy makes a post on there asking if anybody has any information on Tara, and I think that same day he got a call from a private investigator, a PI, you know, who was one of the, you know, he was a PI. He was hired to look into this case and the disappearance of Tara. So he gets a hold of the guy, and they're going through all this stuff, all these old files, and they find some stuff that's, like, they didn't even remember. Like, the guy didn't even remember, like, torn up, like, missing posters of Tara, and a ton of other stuff. Super, super weird. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I had to say? I feel like there was one more thing I had to say. Oh yeah, going back to the podcast guy's grandma's friend. Bit of a puzzle there, but it's the guy's grandma's friend. So the lady who knew Tara. And according to this lady, this is a part, like a kind of big part in episode 2, where it starts talking about white rabbits, which are like endless rabbit holes that you can follow for forever that just lead to absolutely nothing. And it's like somebody makes it's like a witness testimony, you know? You can follow this for forever, and it can maybe sound a bit legit, and then you get to the end of it, and it's like, oh, this was all for nothing, right? Let's see. So the lady says that Tara, in between the pageant, and the barbecue, which wasn't that huge of a time gap, met with a student, that she knew, for like 15, 20 minutes, I think is what the lady said. Which there's no evidence. Like, nobody else said that. This is a complete outlier statement with no evidence backing it up, which is quite weird. In my opinion, that's quite weird. And then, the podcast guy is talking about how, like, yeah, that's what the investigator PI guy calls a white rabbit. Like, you can follow this for forever. It won't lead to anything. And then getting to, like, the main suspects. For the main suspects, we had Tara's former boyfriend, who was in the military. He joined after 9/11, so that's in 2001. And then he comes back for a period of 4 weeks, and then Tara disappears, which is a huge coincidence. Now, does that mean he is the killer or was associated with it? No, doesn't necessarily mean that, but it's highly coincidental that he's here for 4 weeks, and then Tara's gone, right? Pretty weird. And then we had oh man, I think it started lingering the topics that Tara had, like, an affair with a student? Or am I thinking? I'm not going to speak on facts I can't remember. For some reason, my brain can't remember that. I know there's another suspect they talked to, and he also had an alibi, I believe, and it's like, there wasn't much evidence going against that guy, specifically. Yeah, that's about all I have for this episode. I'm not a super big fan of the show, as it stands. I think the guy's research is quite well done. In my opinion, it's quite amateur compared to some of the other podcasts I've had to listen for criminal justice classes. The audio quality isn't great for some of the calls, which is a general case, but this one's actually pretty bad quality audio. Or maybe my headphones just suck. I don't know. But pretty interesting story. Definitely well researched. I think I'm going to end up liking the show in the end. It's just going to take a minute to get used to the more amateur doing and production, which isn't a super big deal. I'm more of here for the actual case. But, yeah, that's about all I have to say. Thanks for watching.